The ash-swept sky had long forgotten color. Aisha trudged through the rubble of what used to be the central market of Kaelora Prime. Her boots crunched against broken glass and crumbled stone. Her once silken robes were now torn, streaked with soot, the hem trailing like the tail of a wounded bird. She had not eaten in 3 days. Not since the last relief drone from the Intergalactic Humanitarian Accord had been shot down by rogue scavengers. Not since she'd watched a mother clutch her baby's body in silence, eyes fixed on nothing. She was the last of her family. Her people had either fled, been captured, or buried beneath the collapsing domes of the city. And now Aisha wondered. She scavenged for food in alleyways where even rats refused to live. All the ration packs had long been looted. The air reeked of oil, fire, and something metallic that clung to her throat like grief. But today, as the sun, or what was left of it, skimmed the horizon, she saw something new. A makeshift campfire, faint smoke, flickering warmth, and a human sitting beside it. Aisha ducked behind a charred pillar, her heart suddenly hammering. A human. Here. The interstellar humans had come months ago, claiming neutrality in the war. Most had left once the skies became too dangerous. A few had stayed behind. Aid workers, medics, madmen. He could be dangerous. Or worse, he could be kind. Still something drew her closer. The man sat cross-legged, a dented steel pot bubbling over a tiny flame. He looked up as if sensing her. His face was gaunt, with tired eyes sunk deep into pale skin. Dust clung to his beard like snowflakes. And in his hand, a piece of flatbread. Her stomach twisted violently. "I see you," the man said gently, not moving. Aisha hesitated. Her fingers gripped the stone beside her, ready to run. "I won't chase," he added, tearing the bread in two. "But I have enough. Just barely." His words weren't a trap. They didn't lunge at her like so many others had. They sat there waiting. Slowly, cautiously, she emerged from the shadows. She looked like a ghost. Her cheeks were sunken, lips cracked, eyes dim and wary. She had once been beautiful, he thought. Still was, beneath the bruises of hunger and time. Her hands shook as she approached, knees trembling with effort. He didn't ask her name. She didn't ask his. She simply sat across from him, the fire between them. He offered her a torn half of the bread and a sliver of dried meat. She took it wordlessly, eyes wide. And then she paused. She stared at the small bite he had left for himself. Barely a morsel. He noticed. "I'm used to being hungry," he said. "You're not." Her voice cracked, foreign from disuse. "Why?" He smiled faintly, pushing the pot toward her. "Because you need it more." Aisha blinked, and for the first time in days, tears welled in her eyes. She bit the bread, and the taste, simple as it was, hit her like a memory. Her throat closed. She chewed slowly, savoring every fiber as if it were a feast. The fire popped. The human leaned back on his hands, staring at the sky. "Do you miss your home?" she asked softly, licking crumbs from her palm. "I never really had one," he replied. "I was a volunteer. I came here to help rebuild schools. Then the war came. Why didn't you leave?" "Because someone has to stay," he said. "And sometimes, helping one person is enough." Aisha said nothing. Her heart ached from the quiet power of those words. They sat in silence for a long while, watching the smoke curl upward as stars slowly emerged through the smoky sky. Later that night, when sleep was nearly upon them, she whispered, "My name is Aisha." The man smiled faintly in the dark. "I'm Theo." The next morning, Aisha helped Theo gather what little they could scavenge. They moved through the ruins with practiced caution, staying low, always watching the skies for drones or worse, other survivors. But even scavengers needed hope. Over the following days, they began building something that resembled a life. Theo had been hiding in the basement of a collapsed library. Books still lined the walls, melted in some places, intact in others. There they found blankets, a broken water filter, and a half-powered solar generator he had jury-rigged from a drone's remains. Aisha read from the books aloud while Theo boiled water or repaired gear. She spoke of her childhood on Kaelora, the spice markets, the sky trains, the dancing fountains at the palace square. And slowly, Theo's laughter returned. One night, Aisha brought back a small cluster of bitterroots she'd found near the crater edge. It was barely food, but she cleaned and cooked them carefully. When she handed him the larger portion, Theo arched a brow. "You're reversing the roles now." She smiled, a shadow of her old self. "You gave me life when I had none left. Let me return the favor." That night, neither of them went to sleep hungry. Weeks passed. Their camp grew. Other survivors stumbled into their orbit, wary, broken, but drawn to the strange peace that surrounded Theo and Aisha's fire. Together they began to share, rebuild, protect one another. A child named Kiro brought a radio scrap he'd found. Theo managed to wire it into the generator. One day, static turned to sound. Emergency broadcast. Evacuation ship arriving at Sector 12 Dome. 3 days. Coordinates locked. Aisha's hands trembled around the receiver. Hope, real and raw, was breathing again. But Sector 12 was miles away, through broken ground and enemy territory. Many would not survive the journey. They had one cart, a few supplies, and more mouths than rations. They debated for hours. Finally Theo stood. "I'll go with the first group. The strong. I'll clear a path and set up a beacon. Aisha, you take the rest and follow after." Aisha looked at him, her voice tight. "What if we never see you again?" He smiled, that same soft smile. "Then remember the night you asked why." The journey was hell. 2 days in, the skies blackened. Acid rain poured. They lost 2 to a collapsing bridge and another to a roaming drone. But still they pushed on, fueled by the memory of warmth, by stories shared around firelight, and by the man who gave away his last bite to a stranger. When they reached the edge of Sector 12, smoke plumed from a flare. Beacon. Theo had made it. Aisha ran ahead, heart pounding. He was waiting, bloodied but alive, standing beneath the rusted spire of the old comms tower. Around him, temporary shelters had been erected. Others had made it too. Stragglers, wanderers, fighters who'd followed the flare of human kindness. When Aisha reached him, she didn't speak. She wrapped her arms around him and held on like he was the last unbroken thing in the world. "You made it," he whispered. "So did you," she replied, eyes wet. He reached into his coat and pulled out a sealed ration bar, one he'd saved during the trek. Without a word he broke it in half, and once again gave her the larger piece.